Here we go!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a video on MMA Unhinged. And as you can see, it's me and Oscar here again, but a different one today. 2025 is going to be a great year for the UFC. And me and Oscar are going to sit down and think about and talk about and predict who we think are going to be champions come this year, this time next year. Who do you think it's going to be? Firstly, Oscar, it's always a pleasure to be joined by you. How are you?
I'm very good. It's the last day of 2024, and we're going to try to be wise guys and predict how the end of 2025 will be in the UFC. And this is always an impossible task, but it's a very fun to discuss, and I say we get right into it.
Absolutely. 2024 has been a fantastic year for MMA and UFC in general. A lot of new champions, a lot of new faces in the UFC. Let's see if we can get anything right in 2025. But yes, let's start it with the heavyweight division, and that is currently Jon Jones is the champion of the division. And for me, this one, I feel like we're going to see a championship bout between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall in the near future. Whether that is in aid or of help with Turkey Alex Sheesh, I think he's going to get involved in some way. I feel like we're going to see Riyadh Season help this one get over the line. I feel like we're going to see Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones eventually throw down. And whoever wins that is going to be the champion of the end of 2025. And for me, I'm a Brit. I'm backing my man. For me, I think it's Tom Aspinall. I think he gets the job done against Jon Jones, which is crazy. I'm very biased, yes. But for me, I'd love to see it. I think the fight will happen in 2025. I think Jon Jones wants it to happen secretly. Tom Aspinall obviously will take it to happen. And I feel like if you look at the rest of the division, there's not too many people I can really see at heavyweight, roaming and taking over that division, other than if it is Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall or Tom Aspinall. I think it's either one of them two that are going to be champion in 2025. A year in MMA is really not that long. Was it maybe 2-3 fights? Maybe 2 fights if you're a heavyweight max. I feel like we're going to see Tom Aspinall out there in 2 times. And I think we're going to see him in there against Jon Jones and possibly even Volkov. I think he defends both times, and I think he's champion 2025.
As you pointed out, there's not a lot of activity going on in the heavyweight division. And one thing, Jon Jones does not like to fight just anybody. He's very picky. And that's why he's going to fight Tom Aspinall. And he's been playing with us this whole time. Every time he had a camera in his face, he would say, I don't want to fight Tom. I don't want to do business with Tom. If you listen to anything Dana White has been saying these last couple of months, this guy seems certain that Tom Aspinall is going to get his shot. And also, Tom Aspinall also very confident. And Jon Jones has also been very open about saying that he wants a couple more fights. Outside of Alex Pereira, there's really nobody for him to fight. Tom Aspinall is right there. He already has the interim title. And in my opinion, he's the most athletic heavyweight we have today. He's the most dangerous, the quickest. And that punching power, I believe, will be disastrous for Jon Jones. Jon has never been truly hit clean at heavyweight by somebody as dangerous as Tom. So I think Tom is going to knock out Jon Jones. And they're going to run it back in Madison Square Garden, Jon Jones' hometown. And it's going to be the same result. So we're going to get 2 heavyweight title fights. Tom Aspinall wins both by finish. Ends the year as the undisputed heavyweight champion in the UFC.
Yeah, I like that pick, obviously being as a Brit. But what you mentioned there, it seems like, Dana White is confident that this fight happens. And I feel like Jon Jones is secretly behind the scenes that he wants this fight to happen. I think there's 2-3 men out there that I think Jon Jones really wants to fight. Obviously, Alex Pereira, Tom Aspinall, and obviously Francis Ngannou. I think they're the 3 that Jon Jones would love to fight. Obviously, Francis Ngannou, that's a bit of a awkward one, sticky situation. But I feel like if the help with Turkey Alex Sheesh, I think he will get involved. I know they've got a little bit of a partnership now with the UFC and PFL and boxing. Turkey's making some some great moves. I think he'll get involved, and I feel like we're going to see maybe a collab with a Riyadh season, and I think this fight is definitely going to happen. Tom Aspinall said, no, sorry, John Jones said he needs, fuck you money. I think the UFC will give it him. I think they're going to pay it just to see this fight happen for the fans.
Yeah, Dana White has said this would be the biggest fight in the history of the UFC. So if he really believes that, he's going to put up the payday for it. And we've seen Khabib get like $6 million back in the day. So I think that's a good enough purse for John Jones to be enticed.
Yeah, I completely agree. Heavyweight is looking interesting in 2025, but so will light heavyweight. Currently, Alex Pereira, he saved UFC's bacon in 2024 3 times, stepping in at short notice, headlining multiple pay-per-views. Let's see in 2025 what that brings. For me, I think there's a worthy challenger currently right now, and his name is Magomed Ankalaev. Will he get his shot? I think certainly he will. Oscar, do you think he gets his shot and he beats Magomed Ankalaev? Magomed Ankalaev beats Alex Pereira. He is the biggest threat to Alex Pereira right now, and I think eventually, if they do throw down, if they do tangle inside the octagon, I think it's going to be a one-sided beatdown for me in favor of the Russian.
Ankalaev is in a very similar situation as Tom Aspinall. He's been the clear #1 guy for a while, but he has not gotten his shot. And Alex Pereira recently said that he had a meeting with the UFC. He was very happy with how it went. And he so insinuated that Ankalaev is not next. But I'm just going to refuse to believe that for now. It feels like it's too obvious that Ankalaev is the guy that he has to fight. There are rumors that Chimaev is going to get the light heavyweight title shot. I think that's a little ridiculous. The guy was a welterweight, what is it, like 2 years ago? So it's a little ridiculous to me. So I'm going to assume Ankalaev has got his title shot. And the reason Pereira's happy is he got a pay bump because he's the UFC's biggest star. He's their biggest merch seller. So he just got a pay bump. That's why he's happy. So I'll be happy to fight anybody, including Ankalaev, who he does not like. But at the end of the day, I've always been a believer in Ankalaev. He's on the biggest win streak in the division. I thought he won the title when he had his title shot, but it was a draw. So Ankalaev is going to win the title. We'll probably have a rematch, and Ankalaev wins that as well. So Ankalaev ends the year as champion in the light heavyweight division. And it's finally going to be a situation where, like Merab, he gets the recognition he deserves for being the most talented guy in the division.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think Magomed Ankalaev will eventually get that title shot and reach his destiny of becoming UFC champion against, a superstar, against Alex Pereira. And as I talked about, saved UFC's bacon 3 times this year. Alex Pereira, he'd blown up. And I did see a story, a video get put out about Australia. Maybe Sydney see you soon, Alex Pereira. So maybe we see Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira run it in Sydney.
Or I think something that could make a little more sense. Maybe it's going to be Carlos Ulberg versus Alex Pereira. Maybe something happened to Jan Blachowicz. You never know. Because if we're being honest, I think that card for the Australian fans in particular needs a little more seasoning, if you will. Sure, they got 2 title fights, but I don't know how excited they are for Strickland and Duplessis and Zhang Weili and Tatiana Suarez.
Yeah, and obviously no disrespect to the champions that we have, but they're not Australian. They're not homegrown. Carlos Ulberg is homegrown. He's Australian, so or New Zealand, one of them. So he will come in there with a lot of fans, and that one 100% would be a fantastic headline. Let's see what happens in the near future with Alex Pereira. Whether it is Magomed Ankalaev, which I believe it should be next, or maybe the UFC make him fight Carlos Ulberg in Australia. Light heavyweight is looking interesting. We both chose Magomed Ankalaev to rule the throne at the end of 2025. Next one, we've got middleweight, and we just spoke about it. Dricus du Plessis will be fighting Sean Strickland in Australia. And I feel like there's a few contenders for this one for me, up-and-comers. I feel like eventually, though, we're going to see Khamzat Chimaev get that title shot. It's easy to look at the top 5, top 10 contenders, but a year is really not that long in MMA. for someone to really break out that much and get a title shot is, I feel like it's quite unrealistic. I feel like we have to look at these top 10s, top 5, see who's there. Because ultimately, I feel like that's going to be who's the champion is in a year's time. And I think it will be Khamzat Chimaev. I think Khamzat Chimaev will get his shot in 2025. Israel Adesanya, obviously, he's on a losing streak. He's going to go off to fight Imavov. I'm excited to see Khamzat Chimaev get a shot. Obviously, after his win against Robert Whittaker, doing what he done to Robert Whittaker, you know, snapping his teeth, that rear naked choke. I feel like he deserves his shot against Dricus du Plessis or Sean Strickland, whoever it may be. And it will be after they fight, maybe June, July, International Fight Week. I think he gets it and he wins.
That makes a lot of sense to me because Khamzat Chimaev, I felt, should have gotten the title shot over Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has been happy to stay on the sidelines this whole time. Sure, he fought and beat Paulo Costa, but that wasn't the most inspiring performance we've seen. If you've seen Twitter these days, people are posting a sped up version of the fight where Sean is effectively doing nothing but a front kick and a jab. So Sean Strickland, sure, he's got his fan base, even in Australia, if you heard that them for the fight against Adesanya. But it feels like Khamzat Chimaev has been the man just on the sidelines for too long. He should be in the title picture. So he's going to get the winner for sure. And I believe he beats either guy. Dricus du Plessis has not fought a guy who I would say is his match on the ground. And Khamzat Chimaev is all of that. And Sean Strickland has already trained with Khamzat Chimaev, and the word was that he got tapped out many times by Khamzat Chimaev in the gym. So we're going to see Khamzat Chimaev win that title finally, assuming he stays healthy, assuming he can stay out of any drama outside of the cage, because this man has had plenty of it.
Absolutely. I think Khamzat Chimaev, we both agree on that one. I feel like it's quite easy for us to say this, you know, who we're predicting to champions. I feel like there's, you know, there's a lot of contenders out there, but I've got a few rogue ones that are coming up. For middleweight, though, I completely agree. Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland, whoever wins that will fight Khamzat Chimaev. And I feel like whoever it is fighting Khamzat will lose. Who would I rather see? For the storyline alone, I think it's Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev for me. I think, you know, they've trained together. A little bit of beef there as well recently, and they've gone back and forth on Twitter. So that one for me, I'd like to see 100%. Which one would you prefer, Dricus or Sean versus Khamzat?
I feel like I would go with the Dricus fight simply because I feel it would be more violent, more chaotic. Because I already pointed out that Sean Strickland, he talks like he's going to go to war, but does he really? He has to be pushed to a serious extent. So I think the Dricus fight would be super chaotic. Dricus is very sloppy in these fights. He gets tired, but he still fights very hard and he inflicts damage. So that would be more interesting to me.
100%. Looking forward to it. See who it will be eventually. Next one, welterweight, current champion, Belal Muhammad, after defeating Leon Edwards, sadly, in Manchester in a dominating performance against Leon Edwards. Got the belt. Now he's the champion, the top of the ladder. Everyone's chasing. I feel like there's a clear contender next. It's Shavkat Rakhmonov. But is he the champion at the end of the year for you, Oscar?
Yeah, I'm going to say this is another situation where we have a guy with a last name that ends in a V ending the year as champion. Shavkat Rakhmonov is an undefeated guy that has finished everybody but his last opponent in Machado Gary. And even in that fight, I felt he won it quite convincingly. So he's got all the skills on the ground, on the feet, to give Belal Muhammad a lot of problems. Belal Muhammad has been knocked out before. Even in the Leon Edwards fight that he won, he lost round 5. He got his back taken. We know Leon is not this super dangerous submission artist. So I feel like there would be opportunities for Shavkat to finish Belal Muhammad. And this is this fight might actually happen in Chicago, my hometown, because Belal Muhammad is from there. And it seems like that would make sense to headline him in Chicago against Shavkat Rakhmonov. They already did the face-off in the cage, so we know this fight is going to happen. It's all about when will it happen. And I don't see any other welterweight title fights happening after that. I feel like both guys are not super active, so I think whoever wins that fight ends the year as champion. I'm going with Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Yeah, and I completely agree with the pick as well. I can't really see anyone else in the top 10, top 5 that I really feel like is going to be, be able to get that throne in 2025. Kamaru Usman, he's not active enough, hasn't fought, and fought a lot. Obviously, he lost against Khamzat Chimaev, but I feel like the big fights is what Usman wants, and he's in a bit of a sticky situation because he's obviously in that losing streak, so he needs to sort of get a win together. Be interested to see where he goes. Leon Edwards, potentially, headlining against Jack Della Maddalena in UFC London. Let's see how that plays out. But I think it's going to be Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Belal Muhammad eventually next for the welterweight championship. And I do believe Shavkat Rakhmonov wins that fight. And I think he'll end the year as champion as well. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is dangerous everywhere he goes. Striking, grappling, submission wrestling, everything about it. I think he's phenomenal. I feel like if you want to build a perfect world-round mixed martial artist, I think you're looking at Shavkat Rakhmonov. He can pretty much do it all. Striking looks phenomenal. Obviously, the way he handled Ian Machado Gary was fantastic. That was a great fight, but I feel like he cruised with that one. Ian Machado Gary, he's got a big ask for himself in 2025. See how that goes. How that plays out. We got got a few contenders coming through as well. We got Hakim Buckley, big winner over Colby Covington, but I don't see him being able to threat or challenge the belt in 2025. I think it's Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he ends the year 2025 champion. I think if we fast forward a year from now, I think that one is probably one of the easiest and most confident picks.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
And I talk about that actually. I talked about easiest and most confident picks, but I forgot what division we had next. It was lightweight. Islam Makhachev, current champion. He has a fight scheduled against the number 1 contender versus Arman Tsarukyan. And let's be honest, Islam has looked fantastic ever since he gained that throne at lightweight. He had that little bit of a war, a bit of a tussle, a good scrap in the first fight against Alexander Volkanovski, but completely shut them rumors off. All that talk of Volkanovski's great, knocked him out second fight, head kicked him, out conscious. Islam Makhachev is a fantastic champion. One of the best lightweights that we've had inside the UFC, up there with his great training partner and friend Khabib Nurmagomedov. Will he surpass his legacy in 2025? That remains to be seen. But firstly, he's got the champion. He'll be facing on Arman Tsarukyan. He's a challenger, a worthy challenger. They fought before. Islam Makhachev beat him once already in a fight where Arman gave him some trouble, gave him some challenges. Will he be able to give him some challenges again? I don't think so. I think Islam Makhachev has come a long way since then. He's been a champion. He's fought his 5-5s. He's beat some of the best in the world. I think Islam Makhachev deals with Arman Tsarukyan handily, and I feel like we're going to see him be 2025 champion end of this time. I feel like there's not many people in that top 10, top 15, top 30, top 50 that can beat Islam Makhachev. I think he'll have this belt until the day he retires.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question for me because Islam has shown a lot of interest in fighting at welterweight against the champion, assuming it's not Belal Muhammad, because he trains with Belal Muhammad. So he's not going to fight Belal. I think he assumes Shavkat is going to beat his teammate, and they can do that fight. But I don't think the belt would be, obviously, I don't think he's going to be in danger of losing the belt after that. But as you pointed out, the Arman Tsarukyan fight, that's a fight I think he wins. He already beat him. That was a different Arman Tsarukyan, but that was a different Islam. Islam has great striking. I would dare to say he has elite striking in MMA at this point because he stood toe-to-toe with Dustin Poirier, who's notoriously one of the best boxers in the UFC, and he was winning. Say what you want about his knockout loss in the past, but since then, he's shown that he can get into these tough fights, still come out on top. And after that, it's obvious this guy's going to fight in Abu Dhabi. That's just what he does every year because he cannot fight during Ramadan. So the Abu Dhabi government loves him over there. They're going to have him defend the belt there. And I believe the man that he meets there will be Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje allegedly has a fight with Dan Hooker coming up. I think he knocks out Dan Hooker and gets a title shot, because if you remember, he was going to get a title shot if he wanted to wait, but he fought Holloway and got knocked out. The UFC will give Gaethje his respect, because, you know, this guy's a company guy. He's been a legend, crazy fights. I just feel that one knockout win and Gaethje's right there. It's a fresh matchup for Islam. He said many times he wants a fresh matchup. And let's not act like Gaethje's not still dangerous, like he couldn't win that fight. So that's going to be the fight. I think Islam chokes out Gaethje, similar to what Khabib did, and defends that belt.
Yeah, I completely agree. Islam Makhachev, the #1 guy at lightweight. It's quite hard to see who's going to beat him. Could it be possibly, though? I'll throw him out there. The featherweight champion of the world, Ilia Topuria. He's expressed interest of moving up to lightweight. He's kind of made some little remarks on Twitter that maybe he's done with 145 pounds. Is that a name, potentially, that could take the throne against Islam Makhachev?
That's a serious challenge, but in my opinion, Islam will just say no, because why would he fight a guy again from featherweight? Because if you remember, when he beat Volkanovski, people were not giving him his credit. They said, you're fighting a smaller guy, so we're not going to give you the credit. And then he also wants to move it up a division himself. So I feel like Islam has earned the privilege to move up rather than to meet another guy making his way up.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that 145-pound throne, whether it gets vacated. Let's talk about it, though. Let's talk about it. The current champion is Ilia Topuria at featherweight. Obviously, off the back of a fantastic year. Myself and you voted him as Fighter of the Year off the back of the wins of Volkanovski and Max Holloway, knocking them both out cold. Is there someone that you see in that top 10? You know, Diego Lopez. We've got some fantastic fighters in there. Diego Lopez, Movsar Evloev. Do you think they can challenge Ilia Topuria off one of the best years of his life in terms of mixed martial arts?
I really don't see it. With Ilia Topuria, he's deadly on the feet. He's got good grappling. He's got black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he's a threat everywhere. He even was able to submit Bryce Mitchell. So if we're looking at the potential challengers, Volkanovski, obviously, but we know how that goes. I think he's going to knock out Volkanovski again. And after that, he's probably going to have to fight Movsar Evloev or Diego Lopez. I think both guys lose and lose in devastating fashion. With Movsar, we've seen him get hurt on the feet before. And oftentimes we see him just having control time on the ground. He's not a finishing threat. And for Diego Lopez, I would say he's pretty hittable on the feet. He's kind of reckless at times, leaves openings. It could result in him knocking out Topuria, but what we've seen from Topuria is immense durability. He fought Josh Emmett for 5 rounds, so I think we're going to see Topuria beat whoever they put in front of him. And I think there's a real scenario where Topuria only fights 1 time a year, so that might not even matter, honestly.
Yeah, I think we're going to have him out once or twice this year. And I'm thinking once in Spain. I think there's going to be one event. I think the UFC and Dana White have been flirting with the opportunity going to Spain, but having Ilia Topuria as, / Georgian / Spanish champion, I think they're going to go over there and do that event for him, for his fans. It's going to be mental out there. I remember seeing this influencer boxing event. They filled out 60,000, 70,000 seats, and it was crazy. Imagine if you did that with Ilia Topuria, UFC champion, against Volkanovski, against Diego Lopez, against Movsar Evloev. It'll pop off. It'll go crazy. But who's the champion at 2025 at the end of the year? It's got to be Ilia Topuria, surely.
Yeah, and still is to be expected here.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I agree. Next one, we have bantamweight. It's Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov as the next scheduled bout at bantamweight for the title, which will be the next pay-per-view, the first pay-per-view of the year, 3/11, I believe, and that will all play out. And obviously, that's Islam Makhachev as well, Arman Tsarukyan. Interesting to see how that one plays out. Umar Nurmagomedov, I do believe, will win that belt, but I've got an interesting pick for this one at bantamweight.
Really? I would like to hear it.
I think we're going to see a switch from Bellator in the name of Patchy Mix. I think he'll make his name. He'll have an introduction to the UFC. I know he's been flirting with the idea of leaving Bellator/PFL. I think he'll come over to the UFC. I think they snatch him up. They put him into a top 5 contender straight away against Petr Yan or Corey Sandhagen. He looks impressive. He gets the title shot against Umar Nurmagomedov or Muradovishvili, and he wins the belt. I think he's champion by end of 2025. Patchy Mix, write it down.
That's a real statement right there, because Patchy Mix, I don't know what the situation is with PFL and Bellator. He really dislikes his current situation. That could be very feasible, but in my opinion, there are a couple limitations he has on the feet. He is very dominant when he comes to the ground, but there's just a man that I believe is the real package here. He's undefeated. He's Umar Nurmagomedov, and he's already got a title shot in place. So that gives me a lot of confidence, because usually with these guys, sometimes I pick them and they don't get their shot. We know Umar is going to get his shot. And with Merab, he's never been the cleanest striker. So what we saw from Umar against Corey Sandhagen is that striking is very high level. He's going to be beating Merab every time they're on the feet. When it comes to the ground, I think Merab does get a couple of takedowns. But ultimately, I don't see him doing a ton with it. And we could see a scenario where Umar gets his back and gets a lot of control time. So I expect Umar to win a decision to win the title. And after that, the way the division plays out, it's going to be Sugar Sean O'Malley getting a title shot, because this guy has tremendous privilege being such a big star for the UFC. He's been the poster boy for a while now. So that's another fight that I see Umar Nurmagomedov winning however he wants. He can win on feet, and on the ground, he's going to win that 9 times out of 10. So Umar Nurmagomedov, I think it will be an unstoppable force and a long-reigning champion.
Absolutely. I like that. I'm going left field. I'm going out of the way a little bit. I'm going Patchy Mix. Let's see what happens. I know there's quite a few people that want to make that switch over from PFL/Bellator, Pitbull, etc. Let's see what happens. It's a rogue one. But next one, we've got a flyweight, Alexander Pantoja, pretty much the king at flyweight. You know, he's made it his home. And if you look at the contenders that really could challenge him, there's not too many. The UFC are bringing in a guy that is making his debut from a different promotion to fight him on a championship bout. You know he's in a bit of a sticky situation because he's fought pretty much everyone in that top 10. Oscar, who do you think is going to be flyweight champion of the world 2025 at the end of it?
Yeah, I think Pantoja is stuck in a land of rematches here. He's beaten everybody. He's even beaten Brendan Moreno 3 times if you include the Ultimate Fighter. And I believe the next man he fights, he already has a win over as well. He beat Kai Kara-France in the Ultimate Fighter tournament back in the day. That was an exhibition bout on paper, but a win is a win. So they're going to run that back. Kai Kara-France got a knockout against Steve Erceg in his last fight. That was very exciting, a big statement. And Kai Kara-France is a recognizable name in this division. If we're being honest, there's not a lot of names in this division. People had no idea who his last opponent was, Kaya Sakura. So they're just throwing things at the wall at this point. For a debutant to get a title shot, that's how you know the UFC's desperate. And they booked Royval versus Manel Kape for the Apex in February. So the winner of that will get the title shot. But I think Pantoja is going to keep busy meanwhile and do a rematch with Kai Kara-France.
Yeah, the UFC and the Ryzen promotion have a little bit of a partnership now. I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC may be going in for Horiguchi, and next thing you know, he's got a title shot against Pantoja.
Wow, that would be very interesting, because Horiguchi was one of Demetrius Johnson's opponents back in the day, but he has improved. He's stayed at the top of the flyweight division in Ryzen, so I would love to see that.
Yeah, fought today actually in a Ryzen event. Got the victory. I think he's on a fantastic winning streak. You know, recently beat Sergio Pettis, so definitely could be a worthy challenger. I mean, the UFC like Kaya Sakura and they put him into a championship bout. But yeah, I agree with Pantoja. I think that one for me is quite you know, a steady one, for quite one to easy, confident one to pick. Pantosia's beat everyone in the top 10. The only way I see Pantoja losing that belt if it's a flash knockout, he gets knocked out. Kai Kara-France could be that man. You know, he's explosive on the feet. He's very fast on the feet. But let's be honest, we've got to think with our head a little bit. Pantoja wins. He's a bit of a in a sticky situation. Same situation as once upon a time with Demetrius Johnson, where it got kind of a bit of a, should we say, stale between him and the UFC because he beat everyone.
Yeah, and yeah, I really think Pantoja is dangerous on the feet. He's dangerous on the ground, and he's super durable, which is what creates a lot of problems for guys. They just can't finish this guy. So he's going to stay in their face. He's going to walk forward. He's going to get control time, and he's going to win these fights. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've got some good picks. Next one, we do have women's bantamweight though, and we'll talk about that. Current champion is Juliana Pena. When she got the victory over Raquel Pennington, controversially or not controversially, depending on how you looked at it. Julia Pena will look to maybe defend her belt, possibly, maybe one time, two times this year. Not the most active of champions. Let's see who she's got potentially in her way. Obviously, there's Kayla Harrison there, Caitlin Vieira there, Macy Chiasson. There's not too many contenders in the bantamweight division for Juliana Pena. I know there was, you know, a flirting as well with, you know, Amanda Nunes potentially making that comeback. But if it did happen, she beats the brakes off Juliana Pena. So there's no. I think that for me, I feel like Amanda Nunes doesn't have that drive to come back to play or fight against Juliana Pena because she beat her already. If this woman that we're about to talk about, Kayla Harrison, gets the title shot and beats Juliana Pena, I think we'll see Amanda Nunes back in the ring, back in the octagon, and she will take on Kayla Harrison by the end of October in 2025. And we'll see the Lioness back on the throne, back in championship, prevail. I think she's champion by the end of 2025, Amanda Nunes, Lioness.
You really just reminded me about Amanda Nunes, because if I'm being honest, I forgot about her. Obviously, she retired, but she did tease a comeback after Pena won the title, because that's easy money for her. That rematch was not competitive. And for Kayla Harrison, it's always been an eventuality, honestly, of her being a UFC champion. She was dominating everybody in the PFL. Sure, she lost the trilogy with Larissa Pacheco, but I feel like Kayla Harrison fighting at bantamweight when she was such a monstrous force at women's featherweight and lightweight in PFL, she really has a big size and physicality advantage, causing her to beat basically anybody they put in front of her. She already has 2 wins. I think Juliana Pena is a good matchup for her. Juliana Pena does not have this great submission defense, so I believe Juliana Pena will tap out to an armbar, as she did to Valentina Shevchenko back in the day. So I think Kayla Harrison wins that title, and as you pointed out, I think that's all Amanda wants is the Kayla Harrison fight. So Amanda comes back, and Amanda's last fight was so clean when she fought Irene Aldana. That was like a 50-45 fight. I think she wins against Kayla Harrison and wins that that title back. It's just a scenario where Kayla Harrison is a little too old to develop her striking at this point. And Amanda Nunes is super powerful, super physical. She might get controlled a lot in the fight, but we're going to see her doing more damage. So I think she's going to win a decision. And as you predicted, she's going to be champion to end the year.
Yeah, I do love Amanda Nunes, the Lioness. Exciting, always good to watch. Great character. Let's see what is in store for the bantamweight division in 2025. Let's see what's in store for the women's flyweight division. Valentina Shevchenko obviously regaining the belt against Alexa Grasso, in which was a great fight to watch. Well, I say that actually, I take the back, which was a bit of a tough fight to watch because she was wrestling and holding on to her for the whole 25 minutes. But she got the job done. She needed to get that title back, and she did. And eventually, she'll face, I believe anyway, Manon Fiorot next. Is that what you're looking at? Do you think that's the fight next? She's the worthy contender next.
100%. Manon Fiorot is undefeated so far in the UFC. She's looked great. She's passed every test, and all of these tests have been passed with flying colors. And the Erin Blanchfield fight was a fight that she was the underdog in, and she made Erin Blanchfield kind of look like an amateur on the feet at many turns in that fight. So she's got all the tools. She's at the, this is like a last chance kind of spot for Manon, because I believe she's 35 already. I feel like we've been waiting to see her get a title shot since like 2022. So she's been waiting for this Shevchenko-Grasso business to wrap up. Now that's wrapped up, I think she goes in there and she beats Valentina Shevchenko. Manon Fiorot is a very physically strong flyweight. She always can bully people in the clinch when she wants to. So all that grappling for Valentina, I don't think is going to work too well. And on the feet, we've seen a deterioration in Valentina's defense. If you see the Alexa Grasso fight, she even got dropped. She does get hit a lot more than she used to in her prime. So I think Manon Fiorot lands enough on the feet, outpoints Valentina, and wins the title by decision. And Manon has not been super active recently, so I say we only get one fight from her that year. So she ends the year as the new flyweight champion.
Yeah, I'd like to see that possibly a pay-per-view in France where we see Shevchenko and Manon go at it. I think that would be good. Obviously, we can have Cyril Gane on there as well. I feel like the French fans as well, they're ridiculous. And I like that pick as well. I've got Manon as well. I think she's becoming champion. Against Valentina Shevchenko, who's, been quite a dominant force in recent years, but then had a slip up against Alexa Grasso. I think she'll lose to Manon Fiorot. I think Manon can hold herself on her own with the striking exchanges 100%. And, grappling as well, I think she's hard to take down. Obviously, Erin Blanchfield tried a few times. I think she'll be able to hold her own with the grappling exchanges as well. Great fight. Look forward to that one. Eventually, it will go down. Be interested to see when that goes down. I know they have been going back and forth on Twitter as well. When do you think we can? I know you're not the UFC or anything, but when do you think we can possibly expect that one?
If I had my guess, I would say probably March or April.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that would be interesting to see. Hopefully, a French pay-per-view, that would be good. But yeah, absolutely agree with Manon as well. Next one, a strawweight, women's strawweight of the UFC is currently the champion is Zhang Weili. She has a scheduled bout against Tatiana Suarez, which I believe is in Australia. We talked about that earlier. Tatiana Suarez, she's been the best in the world for the last 5 years, but not been as active. She's never got that shot because she hasn't been as active as she possibly wanted to be. But I felt like everybody knew it was quite a consensus. Everybody knew that she was the best in the world. She eventually get a shot against Zhang Weili, who Zhang Weili has produced some good moments in her career. Will she produce a good moment against Tatiana Suarez, who I believe is possibly her biggest test thus far? 11-0. Everybody calls it a Khabib of women's MMA. I think she gets hold of Tatiana Suarez, and I think Zhang Weili is very liable to getting held down and controlled a little bit. And I think that's what we're going to see in Australia. I think we'll see Tatiana Suarez get that victory quite convincingly. I think we're going to see some good moments from Zhang Weili. She's the champion. She's got championship heart. But I think she's going to take that fight quite convincingly, quite confident on that one. And I think she ends the year as well for me, champion. I think maybe we'll see Tatiana Suarez. Yeah, she's still, as we talked about, not the most active fighter, but obviously that's due to injuries. Maybe we'll only see her once out this year. But I think she wins the belt against Zhang Weili. I think she gets the victory and ends 2025 a champion.
Yeah, it'll be a cold day in hell when we see Tatiana Suarez fight 3 times in a year. It's just not. I hate to say it, but it's really not how she's historically shown an ability to just go out there and compete that often because of the injuries. I don't know if she has a susceptibility to injuries like that, but it's just how it's shaken out. Zhang Weili, as you pointed out, can get taken down, can get controlled. If you see the fight with Rose Namajunas, that was really tough to watch because she was doing really well on the feet. And in my opinion, she still won the fight. But the reason she lost the fight was there was a couple rounds where she got taken down and held down. And that's bad news when you're fighting Tatiana Suarez, because Suarez is a much better grappler than Rose Namajunas, especially when it comes to top control and takedowns. So on the feet, it's pretty obvious that Zhang Weili is the better striker, but Tatiana Suarez looked really good against Jessica Andrade on the feet. The takedown threat is a big deal. So I think Zhang Weili is going to be a little more timid on the feet. She will eventually get taken down, and she's going to get held down for significant periods, long enough for Suarez to get the title shot. And I hate to say it, but that's going to be the only time we see Suarez this year. I think she's going to just take it easy, take time to recover, as she usually does.
Yeah, she does take a lot of time off, obviously sometimes due to injury. Be interested to see what happens with the strawweight division. Obviously, maybe we see Zhang Weili versus potentially who after that loss?
After that fight, I think a Virna Jandiroba fight makes a lot of sense. Virna was really in the wings to get a title shot. She even had a fight with Tatiana Suarez booked for December, but they canceled that in favor of this title fight.
Yeah, we do have Ismin Lucindo, who's, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, number 7, bit of a surging contender as well. But maybe we could see her at the end of the year, maybe flirting with a title shot.
I feel like if you put her in there with, say, an Amanda Lemos, she's not unrealistic to say she couldn't win that, but I would temper my expectations. She's actually only like 22, 23, so she's still really young. I say you give her more time to develop, and you could see her take a humbling loss potentially against some of these fighters. But I really do like this strawweight division, how it's looking next year, because we've been waiting forever for Tatiana to get her title shot. Now she's getting that title shot. I think since 2018, where we're talking about a title shot for her. So it's been forever. And we have the first event of 2025 will be in the Apex. It's going to be a rematch between Amanda Ribas and Mackenzie Dern. So I'm very interested in that fight. If you've ever seen a Mackenzie Dern fight, they're always fun. She's always hunting that finish. She's very aggressive. So the winner of that could potentially be looking at themselves in the title picture.
Yeah, rematch between the pair. Obviously, I believe it was Amanda Ribas that kind of stopped the momentum of Mackenzie Dern back in the day.
She did. It was, I believe, 2 months after her pregnancy as well. So Mackenzie, I believe, will be in better form this time.
As you can see here, Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Ribas, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Carlton Harris, Cesar Almeida, Chris Curtis, Roman Kopylov, which is an absolute banger. Austin Bashi, 13-0 prospect out of America against Cristiano Rodriguez. A few underrated fights on here that we definitely need to be paying attention. But yeah, first back into the Apex. Thankfully, not for long though. I know the renovations and stuff are soon to be underway, and then we're going to not have too many Apex cards. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. What is your, should we say, outlandish, wild pick that happens in the UFC in 2025?
In the UFC in 2025, their ESPN deal is wrapping up, so I think the UFC at least partially ends up on Netflix for the world to watch, increasing its visibility, increasing its popularity.
Yeah, I like that. It makes a ton of sense since obviously, the TKO umbrella, WWE going to Netflix. There's definitely a partnership there already. There's contacts to be made. I like that. I like that. And then let's see what happens with that. And I believe, if I'm correct in saying, is UFC Fight Pass coming to an end? Or
I don't know about that, but that's a possibility. So if they were to go to Netflix, it could potentially eliminate the need if they move the whole library there. But I feel like the UFC develops a little bit of original content for that, and they got like their own podcast network on there. So I think it would it would
Maybe
stay.
I've seen
But
it
I do realize the thinking behind that, because the WWE just shut down the WWE Network, which has been around for a decade. They recently shut
maybe
that down.
that.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think
it was
that's
that.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe it was
and
that what I've seen.
yeah,
That's
because
quite
the
a
whole
shame,
WWE
actually.
library is
WWE
moving
Network,
to Netflix.
There were some absolute bangers that you could watch at WWE Network. You know, I remember the 2009 Royal Rumble and stuff like that. Like, you know, some great ones.
Yeah, that can be currently watched on Peacock right now in the States. I don't know about everything else, but if I'm not mistaken, they're adding basically everything to Netflix soon. So be on the lookout for that. And if I'm not mistaken, the premiere of Monday Night Raw is going to be this Monday, live on Netflix.
Yeah.
And hopefully it does not buffer like the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, because that was a horrible viewing experience for anybody involved.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. UFC Champs in 2025. A few good picks from me and Oscar and myself. A year down the line. Let's see what happens. Oscar, always a pleasure to be joined by you. Thank you very much.